Hey everybody, welcome back to The Pressing Matters. I'm Scott. Thank you for tuning in today, and thank you for your support. Today I'm going to be discussing another wonderful classical series, and that is the Mercury Living Presence series from the late 50s, early 60s. I had overwhelming response to the RCA Living Stereo video that I just did. A lot of people were like, you got to do more, you got to do more. More classical, please. I was like so surprised because, like, you know, classical usually doesn't get that much attention. So I'm going to give it attention because I love it, and I have quite a big collection of classical records, and I'm going to bring you the best. So the best of this series is coming up right now. Before I get started, if you are new and haven't already, think about subscribing. Give me a thumbs up if you like what I do, and hit like, subscribe, and notification. So this was among the first batch of Living Stereo titles. It's number 6, SR 9006. It is the Prokofiev Love for Three Oranges Suite, backed with a Scythian Suite. Both are spectacular scores that employ the full forces of the orchestra. This is conducted by Antal Dorati and for the London Symphony Orchestra. It's recorded by Robert Fine, and the musical director was his wife, Wilma Cozart Fine. They together produced a wonderful series of albums, and this is one of the first that really showed the world what their technique could do. The sound on this record is unbelievable. Harry Pearson put this on his super disc list, and at one point during the 90s he declared it as the best sounding album of all time. I don't know if I would agree with that, but there's no denying that this is a stunning, fun, spectacular record. It's got so many sonic thrills in it. It's wonderful. It's a 3-mic recording, so they had 3 mics hanging just forward of the orchestra in the first rows or so. And it has an up-front perspective, but you still get some hall sound of Watford Town Hall. They took their mobile truck to Watford Town Hall to do this, so it was parked outside. They did the recording, and the results are just wonderful. I have a few pressings of this. There is a Golden Imports pressing, and there's also where's the Golden Imports? Oh, here it is. Golden Imports, and I have a Classic 33 and a Classic 45. Let me discuss the Golden Imports. The vinyl on early Mercury records is not always that great. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. This one has some little bumps in it, so it gets a little thump here and there, soft thumps. Kind of disappointing. I'm glad I only paid $2 for it. You know, once Harry had announced this being the best sounding record of all time, of course, prices jumped up incredibly high. I think at the time, $300 was a lot of money for a record, and I think it may have even gone higher at some point. But I remember seeing these records back in those days when the Absolute Sound was covering all the Mercury releases in different installments. And I remember in New York there was a store, and I don't remember the name of it. It was right near the Dakota, where John Lennon lived, just down the street. It was up on a loft. It had classical, it had jazz. It was huge, just this huge loft. And they had this little section of audiophile stuff. And I remember seeing all these Mercury Living Presence there. And they had like $200, $300 price tags for most of them. So there was a time when these records were extremely in demand and valuable. They still are, and they still are very well worth seeking out. And you can get them for much less these days. Something you can get even less is the Golden Imports. Now, Golden Imports got kind of a bad rap because they did a few things like, rechanneling some mono records into stereo. That was one thing. And occasionally they would add another track to the original track listing or just shuffle around things. In this case, they added a 17-minute track to the album. So it has the original layout of the original. So it has, Love for Three Oranges, Skythian Suite, and it's got Bartok's Miraculous Mandarin Suite as well. So you would think that that would really hurt the sound. I was surprised because I just put this on and I was like, wow, this still sounds good. It actually sounds better than the original in some respects. Not ultimate dynamics, but it's so clean, and there's deep bass, there's very clean texture, very airy. I think it's a great alternative, and you can usually get these for under $10. So that is an option for this record. It really is very, very good. The classic records editions were actually mastered by Bernie Grunman with the help of Wilma Cozart Fine, who prepared the tapes. She only did 5 for classic, unfortunately. I would have loved to have seen a larger series of these come out. And I hope and pray someday that Chad gets to do it, because he did such a good job with these RCA reissues that he's been doing. But the Classic 33 is excellent. It's excellent, well worth seeking out. Probably the best of all of these. It comes in a 33 or a 45. The 45, as you can imagine, is broken up on 4 sides. So it's like a 35-minute album on 4 sides or something like that. Like less than 10 minutes of music on each side. But boy, they really got it right on the 45. All those powerful dynamics are even more impressive on here, with a sense of ease, and it's like a tape-like sound. Just beautiful, 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 beautiful. Very, very desirable. I love these. I will never let go of these Mercuries that were done on 45. I think they are stunning. Just great. A pain in the neck, but you have to get up and down all the time to change the record. But this is kind of a showpiece record, so it's okay for me to play a 10-minute segment that's just going to knock you out, and I love it. So the second record I wanted to discuss is British Band Classics Volume 2. There was a Volume 1, it was in mono. Volume 2 is the one in stereo. And Mercury had a number of conductors. They had Paul Paray that did most of the French music. They had Dorati, who did most of the large-scale orchestral music, Romantic era music. They had Howard Hanson, who specialized in 20th century American music and his own works. And also they had Frederic Fennell, who was a band musician and a band leader and conductor. So the Eastman School of Music was very much tied to Mercury. Hanson taught there, and Fennell taught there as well. So he conducts the Eastman Wind Ensemble on this record. This record was also on the Absolute Sound Super Disc list, and it really is spectacular in a different way than the previous record that I just discussed. If you've ever heard a marching band go by in a parade, like a big scale marching band, you get an idea of the type of sound this is. It's serious music for wind ensemble, and the dynamics on this record are mind-blowing as well. There's 3 selections on here: Jacob's Suite William Byrd, Holst's Hammersmith, and Walton's Crown Imperial March. The Crown Imperial March is spectacular. This is a wonderful, wonderful record. It also exists in a golden import. Here. This is the golden import version, as I mentioned earlier. Sometimes these golden imports can be really good. Again, they add, did they add anything to this? No, actually, this is exactly as the original was released. So they didn't add any music to it. Great surfaces, very clean, very powerful, a lot of fun to listen to, just a joy. This is a great one as well if you're on a budget and you can't afford the other one. One thing I can say about Mercury's is try to avoid the later pressings. The originals are not the greatest either. A lot of them, like the FR1s that are pressed in Indianapolis by RCA, usually those are the best. Some of the other ones have really dodgy vinyl. So, you know, in a case where you can't get an FR1, or, you know, I think this is an FR1, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this is FR1. In a case where you can't get an FR1 or it's just prohibitively expensive, the golden import is really nice. They're usually super clean, almost unplayed, and great vinyl, and the dynamics are intact on this one as well. Highly recommended for something a little different. So for the next record, I chose one from Howard Hanson, and I couldn't think of a better one than this one. It's called The Composer and His Orchestra. This is a an FR1 pressing that I found in a thrift shop or church sale or something. Hard to find, in great shape, but it's an important album for Mercury and a really important album in terms of learning about how orchestral music is put together. In this record, he goes through the layering of instruments to build up his Merry Mount suite, which is also featured in its entirety. But for the first part of the record, he's introducing each instrument. It plays its part. He describes the tonal colors, the dynamics, and how it works in with the rest of the music. Then you hear the next instrument, and then you hear them played together, and so forth. So it gives you kind of an education on how he puts together his orchestral pieces. And then you hear the whole suite played at once, and you have much, much greater appreciation for it. He's standing at the podium, so you hear him in the center. There's quite a bit of tape hiss on this record, but it's not a big deal. The big deal about this record is hearing him describe this and then hearing it played and put together. And for that, it deserves a high place in the Mercury canon. I love it and I treasure it. I will never let go of this record. Just a beauty. Just a beauty. So what shall we do next? The next record I wanted to cover is Balalaika Favorites. This is one of the first records that they recorded in the Soviet Union. So they took mobile recording equipment to the Soviet Union, recorded on location with the OSRFO State Russian Folk Orchestra. And if that sounds boring to you, this record's anything but boring. This also was recorded on 35mm film, so this was a big deal to lug film equipment there, and the expense of this to record this record. The results are worth it. It's stunning. This was an absolute Sound Super Disc list title as well, and Wilma Cozart-Fine thought enough of it to redo it for Classic Records, and I have the Classic Records 33 and the 45 set, which is here, 4-record set. This is something you probably want to sample first before you invest in a copy of it, but you may be able to find originals for not too much money. It's not a title that is in high demand, only because it was on the super disc list. Is there any demand for it? Because most people are like, look at the cover and they're like, I don't think so. There's no tunes I know on here. But trust me, when you hear it, you'll understand why it's so treasured by audiophiles. The string sound on the Balalaika is great. The space is very open. The orchestra sounds wonderful. Just a really wonderful sound. It's incredible what they captured with this 3-mic technique that they had. Very simply mic'd recordings, very natural sounding, often kind of upfront and vibrant compared to some of the more laid-back recording styles of other companies. Just great stuff. This is highly recommended as well if you can find a copy. I think there was a golden import. I don't believe I have it, and if I have it, I haven't heard it in a while. But it's probably the exact same program. There wasn't much more Balalaika music to add to the golden import. So I think it's exactly the same and probably has great sound too. So that's well worth seeking out if you're on a budget. Last but not least is Dorati's complete ballet score for Stravinsky's Firebird. This is, in my opinion, the best reading of this work ever done. I've heard them all. I think I've heard them all, at least all of the classic era stuff, even up to the 80s, like Telarc era. Telarc's Firebird is pretty cool too, but this one has the edge in interpretation. And the sound is excellent sound. Really hair-raising dynamics and beautiful soft passages. This is the London Symphony Orchestra, again, recorded on location, like the Love for Three Oranges. Just amazing. There is a golden import that is pretty highly regarded. I don't have that one. This is the classic 33. It came on 3 discs rather than 4. This is probably the best you'll ever hear it. Wilma Cosart-Fine did the mastering with Bernie Grunman. She oversaw the mastering with Bernie Grunman, and these turned out really well. I have a 33 of it too somewhere. But there is also a new reissue from digital by Wilma and Robert Fine's son, Tom. I did buy it. It does sound very similar to the classics. However, I don't know if I would recommend it. I had some issues with the pressing, so there probably are good ones out there. I'll leave a link to it below if you want to try to get it. I think it's still available. He put out like 5 titles just in the last few years, and the mastering sounded pretty good, but the pressings were a little bit iffy, I thought. But this reading is wonderful. You'll be surprised at how it can go from soft to loud and just shock you with some of the dynamic swings on this record. Beautiful sound all around. Just another great one. So that is it for today's installment on the classical series, Mercury Living Presence. I'll do more coming up in both of these series. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate all the comments about this series, and I'm just delighted to be able to do them. So thank you so much for supporting this venture, and we'll see you next time. I'm Scott for the Pressing Matters. Have a great day.